Okay, so when your gunstock arrives, it should look something like this box here. It's all folded up and packed nicely. You take it out, there's a couple parts. There's the rear arm here, and then there's a front arm. Usually this will be locked further forward. And then there's the parts bag. So to assemble it, you first want to take the Allen key out. That is seen here. You just pull this part back a little bit, the edge, and then flick the key out. Rotate it out, and then pull it out of the hole. The hole's right there. So you put it in, then clip it. Just take it out. First step, I guess you could put on the stock. Hole there, stick here, stick in the hole, and then you tighten this nut here. You don't want to tighten it too much, but it should be enough that it doesn't just fall out. Next, you put the front part in. There are 2 holes here, 2 holes here. Put them in. And then again, you want to tighten the bolt. Don't tighten it too much, but enough. That should be locked in place mostly. And then if you want to adjust the strap, you can take apart these knots and retie them to your desired length. And then this part here may be difficult to see, but there are 2 little clips on the side here. What you want to do is push them both at the same time to move this bar down. Then you can adjust it freely. Then you can clip them back up. You want to do them both at the same time, like both sides at the same time, otherwise it can lock or break. Okay, now for basic operation. This grip, you tilt it inwards and it will unlock. That will do is allow you to rotate the front arm and the rear grip. And that way you can adjust the height, like the vertical height, as you desire, as well as the orientation of the front grip. And that's also what the curve stock is for. You can see it fits there. The curve stock allows the stock to act as a joint, giving you all the range of motion you would need. And to use the front grip, you simply pull back on it to lock it, or push it forwards to unlock it. You're adjusting it in use. You want to push on it like slightly, then pull back and forth. All right, and then as soon as you pull on it, normally it will lock. So you got to rotate it forward, then slide. And then to adjust the rear grip forward and backwards, there's a screw right here. You just loosen that a little bit, and it should slide backwards, forwards, and you can lock it. Now, when you get it, the grips should be somewhat calibrated, but you may also need to calibrate them to your specific game or just to your liking. So to do that, you got to hop in a game. Okay, so now I'm in a game. This is Contractors, and I have the weapon I want to calibrate to right here. So your first step is to calibrate the rear grip. And you want to calibrate the rotation of it. So you see there's one screw in the bottom here you can get with the Allen key, and loosening that should give you adjustment this way. Now you want to go into a game, hold your gun, and then adjust it so that it's parallel with the stock, or more accurately with the rear part of the stock. It can also help if you look through your nose visor. And once you're happy with that, you tighten it up. And be careful, because sometimes when you tighten it up, it will twist it, or it will twist on its own. But that's fairly easy. And then similar thing for the front grip. There are 2 screws here, and if you loosen them just a little bit, you'll get planar motion, so you can rotate and move back and forth. What you want to do is, again, head back into the game. And assuming you calibrated the rear grip right, you should just be able to move the front grip until whenever you grab it, it doesn't move side to side. So you want the front grip orientated in such a location that whenever you grab the gun, the side to side angle of the gun won't change. You can see the sights. Something like this is pretty good. And once it's in position, you just lock it. Now it should be noted that all games are slightly different in where they put the front grip position, and often position differs within the game itself from weapon to weapon. So it's not uncommon to have deviations this way between, like when switching between weapons. Luckily, it's fairly easy to adapt to those, but that's somewhat unavoidable just due to how the games locate their grips. And that's all for adjusting. Now I want to go over have a detailed look on each part of the assembly. So starting with the rear grip, as we already saw, there's a locking mechanism, and then there's the main body, which attaches to the rear rod, and then there's the front grip, which rotates, and then the front arm, which also rotates. And there's also a bolt that goes between all of them. So it starts here, you can see the bolt head there, goes in this adjusting knob, and ends up in a nut that's in this part. So what that allows you to do is change the tension by twisting this. So you can tighten it, which makes it harder to unlock and lock. It makes it stiffer. Or you can make it looser, which lets it fall apart more easily. You don't want to tighten it too much, though. I would only tighten it as much as you can do with like one finger. Or you can probably go a little bit harder. But just keep in mind, if you tighten it too much, this piece will break, which is why they may have a spare that comes with it. So you can see it. If you tighten it too much, there's a lot of stress between the back side here and the front side here, and it'll split right at that line right here. So you don't want to break it. But if you do break it, you'll know where the break point is, like how much tension you can apply. And then you can use the spare. So we'll have a quick look over here at the wall of prototypes. This here is like a previous version. It has a slightly different interface pattern here. But you can see there, when I pull on the arm, this part moves upwards. And that applies tension to the nut and the bolt and locks everything in place. And that's done by 2 joints. If I take this out, you'll see that this piece can move relative to the backing plate due to a print-in-place joint there, and then these ones can also move independently. So when combined with the end piece, they make what is called the over-center mechanism. The line created by the 3 joints will get straighter and straighter until it gets perfectly straight, and this is your maximum extension. And then it'll go slightly past that. And what that does is locks it in this position. So you need to apply extra force to push it back to straight and then back past it. And that gives a nice locking action. You can see here, there's a little bit of a snap. You have to put a little bit of force into it to get it to unlock. And once it does, it moves the rest of the way. Yeah. And then also to note on the front grip, there are 2 additional screw holes. This hole here allows you to put a screw in that will limit how far you can close it. And it doesn't do all that much, but it doesn't hurt to have it there. And then you can also lock it. So there's this nut hole here and a screw hole there on the bottom. If you just put the nut between there, it will be locked and you can't open and close it anymore. You'll have to rely on this wheel to adjust it. Now moving on to the front grip. So to start off with, you can adjust the angle this way using this screw. Simply loosen it a little bit, like about 1 turn or less. Then you can rotate. and then hold it in place as you tighten. And you don't want to go too tight. As you can see, it's now locked again. So you can give a fair bit of rotation on there. Although, if you put it too far down, you can end up rubbing your knuckles against the carbon fiber, and that is not particularly pleasant. So maybe don't put it all the way down, but even this is almost fine. Yeah. You can see it here. So you have the part that stays with the tube and the part that stays with your grip. So you can see here, when I push it forwards, there is a cam in the center that will unlock. Well, that will move out of the way. And when you pull backwards on it, this flat surface engages with the rod and adds a lot of friction. And at the same time, there's also this nut here that will push against the rod and stop it from moving. So from my experience, both of these mechanisms, the cam and the screw, can lock it on its own, but ideally you want both to work. So I achieve that by undoing the screw, pulling back on the front arm so that this cam engages, and then slowly screwing the screw back in until it just barely touches. And that way you get the nice locking that comes from the center cam, as well as a hard stop from the screw. And it should be fairly durable and last a while. And then you also put elastic bands around the front there, and that will make it automatically fall back downwards. And then there's the stock. I do have prototype adjustable stocks. This is one of the older ones that let you adjust to many other positions quickly, but they're not really needed with this design, as you can get vertical adjustment instantly using the rotating grips and the curved stock. And if you want, you can change the height of the curved stock if you use certain different weapons, or if your head to shoulder height is different. And you can just do that by taking out those two screws and putting them in any of those positions. It could be difficult to get the nuts out of those holes, so you just partially thread the screw in to the nut from the other side, and then you can wiggle it out. But yeah. There's also two different rotations you can do depending on where you put the bolts. You could have it up here or rotated farther inwards. Let's put the screw back in.